told you to find yourself, but they never told you where to look. They told you to be a good man, but they never defined what that means. They handed you a script, half-written, vague, soaked in contradictions, and expected you to live it like gospel. You were not raised to be free. You were trained to conform, to please, to perform. And slowly, piece by piece, you became someone you aren't. This is the burden Søren Kierkegaard placed on your shoulders. Become who you are, not who your parents demanded, not who society accepts, not the man a woman says she'll love if only you soften, surrender, and shrink. You, the unfiltered self, the dangerous self, the honest self that makes liars uncomfortable. You see, Kierkegaard didn't preach comfortable truths. He didn't coddle lost souls or hand out shallow hope. He delivered a war cry disguised as a philosophy, a brutal demand to step into the hell of your own becoming. Because the only alternative to becoming yourself is becoming nothing. A mask, a replica, a hollow man who smiles on command and dies quietly every night in the prison of his own skin. You were not created to blend in. You were not created to be liked. You were not created to chase applause or approval. You were created to stand like a cliff against the storm, to feel the terror of loneliness, the rage of limitation, the silence of God, and still not fold. But instead of forging yourself, you were taught to market yourself. You crafted a persona that others would accept, a version of yourself optimized for applause, but dead behind the eyes. You chose survival over truth, safety over depth, praise over pain, and in doing so, you buried the real man, the one that was supposed to scare people, the one that was meant to disturb the weak, the one that would rather lose everything than lie to himself for one more minute. Kierkegaard called it despair, but not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the despair of never truly living, of playing a role so long that the actor forgets there was ever a man beneath the costume. This is your sickness. This is your cage. And the worst part, you've decorated it to feel like home. You wake up every day performing. You wear the clothes she likes. You say what won't rock the boat. You go to work. You play nice. You scroll your phone. You sedate your instincts. And you tell yourself this is maturity. This is what men do. This is the responsible life. But somewhere deep in your bones, you know the truth. This isn't living. This is slow death. This is spiritual suffocation. This is the decay of your divine masculinity, rotting from the inside while you pretend everything's fine. The world loves this version of you, obedient, harmless, empty. They say you're evolved. They say you're healthy. They say you're a good man. But you're not good. You're dying. And Kierkegaard would spit on the lies they've wrapped around your identity. He didn't call men to be liked. He called them to be real. Real in a way that costs them everything. Real in a way that offends polite society. Real in a way that forces them to suffer their own consequences instead of blaming the world. You think you're suffering because of the world, because of women, because of money or failure or rejection. Number, you're suffering because you've betrayed yourself. You've allowed others to define your worth. You've allowed her attention to dictate your confidence. You've allowed the world's scripts to become your law. And now, the real you, the one buried under years of fear, shame, and compromise, is clawing at the inside of your skin, begging to break free. But here's the part most men run from. To become yourself, you must first destroy who you aren't. That means death, not physical death, ego death, death of the false identity, the one you built to survive, the one that's been praised by everyone who benefits from your silence. And that kind of death is terrifying, because no one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to clap for you when you walk away from the crowd. No one's going to thank you for standing in your truth. especially when your truth makes them uncomfortable. But if you don't walk that path, if you don't step into that fire, you will spend your entire life trying to be someone else, someone she likes, someone your boss respects, someone your parents approve of, and none of those people will ever know you. They'll love the mask, they'll reward the role, but they will never see the man, because the man never showed up. You think this is harsh, you think this is cold. It's the only mercy left in a world that's trained you to lie every time you open your mouth. This is the truth no one else has the courage to say to your face. You are not the man you could be, and you never will be, until you destroy the lie you're living. Kierkegaard believed that the highest form of despair wasn't in suffering, but in refusing to suffer the truth. And the truth is that you've built a life on sand. You've constructed your identity out of scraps handed to you by people who were afraid to live freely themselves. You've inherited fear. You've inherited shame. You've inherited limitations that were never yours to begin with. And you still wear them like they fit, but they don't. And you know it. So what are you going to do now? Are you going to keep performing? Keep pretending this mask is enough? Or are you going to start digging? Start bleeding? Start becoming? Because that's the only way out. There is no shortcut, no therapist, no lover, no ideology that will do the work for you. You have to burn. You have to walk through your own hell. You have to stare your own cowardice in the face. And you have to fight it. And no one will do it for you. This is the price of masculine freedom, not pleasure, not applause, not love, selfhood. The rarest thing a man can possess in a world that profits from his confusion. Kierkegaard called it the single individual, the one who stands alone, the one who dares to confront God and himself without a crowd to cheer him on. If you want to be that man, then you have to die first. Not once, not figuratively, but every damn day. You die to the lie. You die to the comfort. You die to the version of yourself that makes everyone else feel safe while you slowly disappear. And from that death, you rise, not as their man, not as her man, but as your own. You were warned, not in words, not in lectures, but in the ache behind your eyes when you wake up and wonder who the hell you've become. In the silence after you say what's expected instead of what's true. In the rage that simmers beneath your smile when someone praises a version of you that's a damn lie. Kierkegaard called it the crowd, the collective illusion, the mask of public opinion that men wear to avoid the burden of truth. The moment you hide behind what everyone thinks, you've stopped being a man and started being a shadow. And if the crowd is the lie that keeps you average, then the woman, the one you've been trained to worship, is the mirror that reinforces it. Let's cut through the fantasy. She doesn't want the man you've become. Not really. She says she wants you kind, emotionally available, respectful of her independence. And so, you comply. You soften. You listen. You bend. You become the sensitive man she says she desires. But look closely. Where is her passion? Where is her respect? Where is the fire in her eyes when you walk into the room? Gone. Because you gave her what she asked for instead of what she craves. She asked for peace. She craves power. She asked for softness. She craves strength. She asked for submission, but only so she could test whether you'd give it. And when you did, she lost faith, because you failed the test and you failed yourself. You were supposed to lead, not manage her emotions, not seek her approval, not hand her the crown and beg to be king in her kingdom. But you did, because you feared being alone. You feared being unloved. You feared being cast out of the safety of her affection. And so, you castrated your ambition, muzzled your truth, and lit your fire just dim enough to make her feel secure. Kierkegaard would call this despair, the despair of not being who you are because you want to be accepted. The tragedy of the modern man isn't just that he doesn't know who he is. It's that he knows exactly who he is, and he chooses to bury it for the illusion of being wanted. You think this makes you virtuous? That you're noble for sacrificing your mission so she can feel comfortable? Number, you're a coward. And that cowardice has a price. Every time you lie to keep the peace, you give her another reason to doubt you. Every time you defer, you signal weakness. Every time you apologize for being a man, for wanting to lead, to dominate, to create, you train her not to trust you. And she doesn't. She may not say it. Hell, she may not even know it. But deep in her feminine core, she knows what you've lost. She knows that you were made for more, and she knows you gave it away for her. And she'll never forgive you for it. This isn't about hating her. This isn't about blaming women. This is about understanding that she is not your mirror. She is your test. She was sent to see if you would trade your power for her praise. And you did. But now you get to choose again. Kierkegaard spoke of the leap, the terrifying moment when a man abandons the crowd and walks into himself, alone, unapplauded, ununderstood. That's the price of becoming. No one will validate your leap. No one will tell you it's time. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose the illusion of being liked. And in exchange, you will gain one thing only: the raw, brutal, unsanitized truth of who you are. And it will hurt, because you'll see the lies you've told. You'll see the boy inside who still wants mommy's love, who still craves her approval, who still longs for someone to tell him he's enough. And you'll realize no one's coming to do that for you. She won't. The crowd won't. And God is waiting to see if you'll do it for yourself. This is what Kierkegaard meant when he spoke of subjectivity. Your truth, not a general truth, not a universal identity, but your essence, the one no one else can define, no one else can verify, no one else can live. And it's the only thing that can't be taken from you. But you've sold it. For attention, for sex, for validation, for a girlfriend, for a job, for a life that looks impressive but feels hollow. You've become a master of performance and a stranger to your own soul. And it's killing you, because every man eventually reaches a threshold, a moment when the lie is too heavy to carry, when the applause sounds hollow, when the smile hurts more than the truth. And in that moment, you have a choice. Keep dying slowly, or die once, for real, and be reborn. Kierkegaard didn't promise happiness. He didn't offer comfort. He didn't teach you how to be liked. He offered despair, because despair is the path through which men awaken. When everything else is stripped away, when your woman leaves, when the crowd turns on you, when the scripts fail, you are left with one thing: the raw, naked question of who you are. Not who you pretend to be, not who you hope to be, who you are, right now. Every time you smile when you should speak, every time you shrink when you should stand, every time you seek her approval instead of your own conviction, your soul will scream louder than it ever has. Not because you're doing something new, but because you finally remember who you are and what you've betrayed. This is where most men fall apart. They wake up, they feel the fire, they taste the truth, but when they see the cost, when they see how much they must burn to become, they run back to the cage, to her, to the job, to the crowd, to the lie. Because becoming who you are doesn't feel like growth. It feels like death. That's what Kierkegaard meant when he said the self must die to be born again. This isn't spiritual poetry. This is psychological war. You have to strip away every false self you've built, layer by layer, story by story, belief by belief, until all that's left is the fire that cannot be extinguished. And in that fire, you don't find peace. You find power. Because now, You don't care if she stays. You don't care if they clap. You don't care if you're called arrogant, harsh, cold, difficult, dangerous. You don't care because your soul is finally louder than their approval. That's what it means to be free. You don't need her to understand you. You don't need the crowd to accept you. You don't even need God to rescue you. Because now, you're not asking anyone for permission. You're not waiting for the world to see your worth. You've already decided. And that decision is everything. This is the moment where you stop being a product of your past and become the author of your future. No more scripts, no more roles, no more pretending, just you, and the discipline to remain yourself, even when the entire world tries to tame you. Because they will try. The woman who once praised your strength will test it the moment you stand without her approval. She will tell you you've changed. She will say you become cold. She will withhold affection to see if you fold. Let her. The world that once called you promising will call you dangerous. They will smear your name. They will question your values. They will brand you toxic. Let them. Because nothing that's real is lost when you become who you are. Only the illusions. Only the people who never really loved you. Only the rewards that required you to lie. You lose what was never yours to begin with, and you gain yourself. That is the path of masculine becoming. That is the path Kierkegaard walked, alone, against the world. They mocked him, they rejected him, but he never bowed to the crowd. He lived, and he died, becoming himself. That is your path now. You don't have time to play nice. You don't have time to be liked. You don't have time to wait for someone to save you. You are the man. You are the fire. You are the standard. And if you don't carry that, no one will. But you're different, because you've already lost enough. You've already bled for the lie. You've already tried the path of the weak man, the nice man, the agreeable man, the digestible man, and all it gave you was self-hatred in a beautiful cage. So now you rise, and you rise without applause. You rise without support. You rise without her hand in yours, because this isn't about them. This is about the man you were meant to be, the one you buried, the one you feared, the one who speaks when others go silent, the one who walks when others kneel, the one who stares at his shadow and integrates it. The world does not need more men who bend. It needs more men who burn. And that begins with you. No more performance, no more pretending, no more waiting for the perfect moment. This is it. You're not here to survive. You're here to become. And when you do, when you finally stand in your truth, you won't need to explain it to anyone. You won't need to argue your worth. You won't need to prove yourself, because real men don't convince. They simply are. And the world rearranges itself around that kind of presence. So stop asking who you're supposed to be. Start becoming. Because if you don't, you will be devoured by who you aren't. And that is a death worse than any you can imagine.